I am live. I decided to reread the last chapter of The Only Planet of Choice, Briefings it is called, and it's words by Phyllis V. Schlemmer. She passed away in 2013, but this is the very beginning of the story of the process of the channeling she did for this book. And I read the first part earlier this morning, and I continue here with the words of Sir John Whitmore, who was one of her assistants. It was 3 of them who worked to channel the 9 and the information from Tom, who was the spokesman. And Sir John Whitmore says here, has here asked here some question and gave some details about what channeling entails. And I continue now. There was a conversation with Gene Roddenberry where he had asked a question which was answered completely for him to understand. Tom continues. Tom, if our being did not give us total permission to take control without creating difficulty or objecting to us, we could not, for the sake of non-interference of free will, completely control our being. Our being's mind, her soul, is not in the body when we are communicating. Our being had great objection to computerization. That was the original plan, but out of fear of being controlled by a computer, she created great difficulty for us, herself, and for the civilization of Altea that was attempting to communicate in that way. We would not be communicating in this manner if our being had given herself in completeness to a computer. In many thousands of years of communication from the other planes of dimension to species and beings upon the physical planes, Earth, there has always been great difficulty. There have been but few that we would call perfect, as anyone possibly could be perfect upon your planet. The reason being that there have been but few that would permit complete control. Andrew, this is questions and answers. I see. That is absolutely basic in the process, is it? Tom, it is primary. Without the control and without relinquishing the personality of the individual, it is not in truth clear communication. We have cautioned you many times to be of extreme caution with the conscious mind of those with whom you work, whom you use as a communicator. It is important for you to understand that in order to communicate, and I speak now not just of my operating as a spokesman for the 9, but also for other civilizations to be able to communicate, we will use an instrument. We use this term, instrument, because the one through whom we communicate is in truth a physical transmitter. When we use a being, it is important for you to understand that we must truly control that being. We take over the subconscious. It has to be a being that is willing, that becomes passive in order for us to become active. We've never had difficulty with our being, Phyllis. That is because our being removes her individuality. But it is also the reason for the fear of computers. She understands in her subconscious and has made a commitment, but the fear of a computer is the fear of a loss of soul. Do you then understand that we must, with great effort, maintain a balance in the physical body? It is important that when taking over the body, that at the moment that we are taking it over, it is in a sense like a computer. We must cause the body to have its heart operating, its lungs breathing, all of its major organs functioning. That is the reason that many times there is a drain of energy in the 2 of you. It is because we are using your energy maintaining the body in a suspended state. Andrew, is this carried out by a computer or is it by a being? Tom, with our being it is another being, that is the difficulty. We do not violate the agreement with our being. She is the only one on your planet who was able to do this. And it was from an earlier agreement that she decided to give completely to the Nine. It was not an agreement with computers. At the time that we communicate with you, we wish you to understand that we do not have a vocal language. Andrew, you communicate by direct mind to mind? Tom, we communicate with the being, with the mind of our being, and then her subconscious transmits into words. When we maintain our being, it is as if we take 1,000,000 threads and we weave these threads together to communicate with you. If there is a situation where she is not physically in condition, if, for example, she has a difficulty of digestion or difficulty of elimination, or difficulty in emotions, or if there is a negative vibration within her, or a negative or doubtful vibration within either of you, or an anger in you, or a disturbance, we cannot then use the energy from you because it would cause a breakdown in the threads which we weave with her to communicate. And so we communicate at times with great effort, which then in turn causes more of a depletion upon her. Also, when conditions are not proper, it is very difficult to present the image so that they may be related. Through thousands of years, other civilizations have worked very diligently to perfect and to refine a system of communication. So there would not be the necessity to transmit and to control a being, to relate what other civilization would relate to you. We are telling you now, and we pray that you have understanding of what we tell you when we speak to you. We speak through this being. That is to be clearly understood. Communications which you receive through other beings and species come through a different sort of communication. It is relayed. John, could you answer one question concerning the means that you use to speak through Phyllis? Because the Tibetan, who channeled through Alice Bailey, and some esoteric schools give advice not to pay much attention to deep trance channeling. It is considered lower psychism, and of course this gives us credibility difficulties with those in those esoteric schools. Tom, do they feel that taking a pen in a hand, automatic writing, is higher psychism? What is the difference? John, well, I believe that what we do here is a more pure way because of the lack of interference. Tom, you are in truth. In this manner there is no mind, there is no consciousness, there is no unconsciousness, lower consciousness or higher consciousness. John, but why did the Tibetan give that advice? In that case, there must have been some reason. Tom, remember this, in those times, the earlier 20th century, there were many that were used by spirits. Those in such schools must change their thinking, for this is a changing universe. It is not static. They are remaining in staticness. From time to time during this period we worked with other channels who seemed to have access to specialist information that complemented the Nine. However, they would at times relate things outside their specialization that would conflict with the Nine, or it would lead us off track. This caused confusion and occasionally conflict within the group. We asked the Nine about this. Andrew, can we discuss again the human problems of some of our other channels? Tom, we have difficulty in understanding your nature. We are being educated by others in the way of your beings. It is very difficult for us to understand your physical nature. We understand your emotional, and we understand your intellectual, but it is very difficult for us to understand your physical. We are aware of the problems that you are having with some of your beings with their physicalness. We cannot remove this from them. This they must remove from themselves, or refine it. I will try to explain, but I do not understand that emotion, so I will relate it in a manner that has been given to me. In regard to your physical bodies, the desires that you have in your physical reproductive areas are similar to a safety valve. The conscious mind of others may have desire to use of you, when it would be one of the opposite sex that would use you. Be careful of their communication. We are not saying that you are not allowed to communicate through others, but it would not be direct from us. We want you to be clear of that. Andrew: yes, I am very clear about that. Tom: but it is when they wish to use you that they may not speak to you what is the truth. It may be that the civilization that speaks through them is trying with great difficulty to relate a truth to you, but for them it is an opportunity to use you. We wish you to know that the most destructive element is the ego that controls. John: some other channels here and elsewhere are producing a lot of cataclysmic predictions and other sorts of messages that do not seem to coincide directly with yours. Tom: we have related in many communications. We will continue to relate to you. There are many civilizations that have communication with humans on Earth in which that would be consideration. We will use a term that is not a term that we like, but perhaps it would give you to your understanding. There are those that are in a higher echelon and those in a lower echelon. We communicate not through any but that of our being. Only if our being is returned to us would there be a decision to communicate through another. In the civilizations that create great chaos within many, they are giving their point of view of seeing. In relationship to catastrophes, we will not permit catastrophes to completely remove souls from the earth. What we are attempting to say to you is that those that communicate in the strictness of negativity are in a realm that is being used, that is using their emotion, their drama. It is not of the purest. Do you understand what we are saying? This particular case of confusion, which had arisen within the group in the early days, is recounted here to demonstrate the kind of trouble which are easy to fall into when exploring a new world, such as channeling. Also, it gives some interesting background into the dynamics of some of the groups of channelers which exist today. Apart from lesser civilizations with lesser knowledge of the whole, there was always the question of whether some non-terrestrial intelligences were deliberately destructive or had evil intent, and whether they could interfere with communications with the Nine. Andrew: since there has been so much talk of positive and negative forces, is there any sign or method by which a person could confirm that he or she is dealing with positive forces? Some religious people might be frightened by our communications and insist that they could only be negative. Tom: by their knowledge, by their benefit to Earth, you will have the understanding. We have explained that there are those civilizations that could create difficulty, but their power cannot sustain. Within your ear, within your heart, within your mind, it is, if it feels not right in the essence in which they convey to you, then we give to you our assurance. It is not right. The Nine also warned us that civilizations that did not have the best interest of planet Earth at heart could exploit the weaknesses of some channels. Tom: there are two ways in which your channels can receive and get into problems in your physical world. One would be when the channel is weakened, either by lack of rest or illness. The other will be when the channel is willing to be used negatively because of the desire for power. Our being was not a willing channel for negativity. In this particular case, we may interfere and we help. In a channel willing to channel negatively, we may not interfere. When a channel is willing to be used negatively, there are many factors that you must take into account. And because a channel is willing, it does not mean that that channel cannot become unwilling. John, on the subject of being willing, is there a difference between being consciously willing and unconsciously willing? Tom, there is no difference. An unconscious desire for power is the same as a conscious desire for power. Andrew, I have a feeling that so-and-so, XXX, has the potential to become a channel. What is your advice with respect to this possibility? Tom, this is possible in the future, but she must learn discipline before she may work. And when I speak of discipline, I mean this in the sense that she must learn to balance in this physical world. Without the balance in the physical world, it is difficult. As you know, for every 100 that come to this planet to do the work, who have chosen for themselves, 98 do not make it. It is because of non-discipline in your physical world. You must be extremely careful with whom you deal. And when I speak of this, I mean contacts that you make with sources from other civilizations or the spirit realm. Not always are such contacts valid, true, and honest. Because a contact is made, it does not mean it is a true contact. When I say this, I mean a contact that says it is working for us. John, be careful because there are all degrees of spirit? Is that what you are trying to say? Tom, this is correct. And we are not a spirit, and this is what we speak of. We do not wish to be involved with the spirits. The spirits are those who have passed on in this world and are hanging around the planet Earth. We are not spirits. Spirits of your world that Okay, let me repeat this last paragraph. You must be extremely careful with whom you deal, and when I speak of this, I mean contacts that you make with sources from other civilizations or the spirit realms. Not always are such contacts valid, true, and honest. Because a contact is made, it does not mean it is a true contact. When I say this, I mean a contact that says it is working for us. John, be careful because there are all degrees of spirit? Is that what you're trying to say? Tom, this is correct, and we are not a spirit, and this is what we speak of. We do not wish to be involved with the spirits. The spirits are those who have passed on in this world, and are hanging around this planet Earth. We are not spirits. Spirits of your world that are in the atmosphere and around the bands of your world are as confused as the physical beings on Earth. There are those that are evolved, but most are not. We are not spirits. We are trying to save the Earth so that these spirits, beings, also may be released and be evolved. Be careful whence you work. Remember this. Most of the groups and most of the organizations using channeling are working with the spirits. As I said, there are those that are evolved, but there are those that are also confused. When they left Earth, they also took their desires with them. And one of the desires that manifests on Earth is the desire to control. I finished this here because the battery was warning me. So it'll be 3 parts. This was published in 1994.